Sweden, 14th century. Around 1372 AD, winter had sealed the land in iron silence. Snow lay thick over forests and villages, and the nights stretched long, as if time itself hesitated beneath the northern sky. In a small chamber lit by a single oil lamp, Saint Bridget of Sweden knelt in prayer as the bells of Christmas Eve faded into the frozen air. She was already known across Europe as a mystic, a widow, a mother of 8, and a woman whose visions unsettled kings and comforted the poor. Yet nothing in her many years of spiritual trials prepared her for what she was about to witness at midnight. Bridget's body was weak, worn by fasting and pilgrimage, but her mind burned with clarity. She had spent the day in silence, meditating on the mystery of the Incarnation. To most Christians of her time, Christmas was wrapped in warmth, angels singing, shepherds rejoicing, a holy night softened by divine light. Bridget, however, felt an unease pressing on her chest as the hour approached. The air seemed heavier, the darkness more alive. She later wrote that her heart trembled, not with fear alone, but with an awareness that heaven itself was drawing near. As the final bell struck midnight, the chamber around her dissolved. The walls faded like mist, and Bridget found herself standing on cold, uneven ground beneath a night sky vast and terrifying in its silence. She realized she was no longer in Sweden, nor in her own century. She was witnessing the birth of Christ, not as a distant legend, but as a living, unfolding reality. She saw Mary first. Not the serene queen of painted icons, but a young woman kneeling on bare earth, her face pale from exhaustion, her breath visible in the cold. There were no rich garments, no soft straw prepared in advance. The ground was hard. The night was merciless, and Mary was utterly alone except for God. Joseph stood nearby, helpless, his hands trembling, his eyes darting into the darkness, as if expecting danger at any moment. Then came the moment Bridget would never forget. There was no cry of a newborn echoing into the night, no sudden warmth. Instead, a blinding light burst forth, not outward to comfort the world, but inward, piercing Bridget's soul. The child appeared, not emerging in the ordinary way, but suddenly present, radiant and vulnerable, lying naked upon the cold ground. Mary bowed low, tears streaming down her face, not tears of joy alone, but of awe and terror. At that instant, Bridget understood something most believers never dared to imagine. God had chosen not comfort but exposure, not safety but risk. Not glory as humans understood it, but utter humility. If you were standing where Saint Bridget stood, witnessing this moment with no veil of tradition to soften it, would you have felt comfort or fear? Comment below and share your thoughts, and don't forget to like and follow for more hidden stories from history. The vision did not end with the birth. Bridget saw the cold biting into the infant's flesh. She saw Mary wrap him quickly, desperately, using what little cloth she had. She saw Joseph's silent anguish as he realized how little he could offer to protect the creator of the world. The stable was not peaceful. It was tense, exposed, and surrounded by darkness that seemed to press inward, as if unseen forces watched from the shadows. In Bridget's time, Europe was ravaged by war, plague, and political betrayal. Kings spoke of Christ while spilling blood, and clergy often lived in luxury, while the poor froze in winter streets. In this vision, Bridget understood why heaven had chosen her, why this terrifying clarity was entrusted to a woman who had buried children, lost a husband, and walked barefoot to Rome. The vision was not meant to soothe. It was meant to confront. She perceived, with dreadful certainty, that the vulnerability of Christ was not only a historical moment, but a mirror held up to humanity. The child lay defenseless because humanity itself was spiritually exposed, cold, proud, and divided. The darkness surrounding the stable was not merely night. It was the accumulated sin of centuries, waiting for the light to either transform it or be rejected by it. As Bridget watched, the heavens did not erupt in song. Instead, there was a profound stillness, a silence so deep it felt like judgment. Only after this silence did angels appear, not triumphant, but solemn, as if aware of the suffering that awaited this child. Bridget felt their sorrow more than their joy. She fell to her knees within the vision, overwhelmed. Her soul recoiled at the realization that the Incarnation was not a gentle story meant for comfort, but a divine descent into danger. She later wrote that this vision shattered her understanding of Christmas forever. It was no longer a celebration without cost. It was the beginning of a sacrifice that would demand everything. Could you continue believing with the same comfort if Christmas looked like this to you? Share your thoughts in the comments, and stay with us for the rest of this extraordinary revelation. When Bridget returned to her chamber, dawn had not yet come. Her body was soaked with sweat, her heart racing as if she had run miles through the night. For hours she could not speak. When she finally did, her words came slowly, carefully, as though each sentence carried weight enough to crush her if mishandled. She recorded the vision not to inspire fear, but to awaken reverence. In her writings, later compiled as revelations, she insisted that the world had softened the Nativity into something safe. She warned that when faith becomes comfortable, it loses its power to transform. The cold ground on which Christ lay was, to her, a warning. God enters the world where he is least welcomed. Her revelation spread quickly. Some clergy praised her as a prophetess. Others grew uneasy. Kings read her words and felt exposed. Church leaders bristled at her insistence that Christ was born into poverty not symbolically, but deliberately, and that the church must reflect that humility or risk betraying him again. Bridget faced suspicion, ridicule, and isolation. Yet she never withdrew her testimony. She believed the vision had been given precisely because it was disturbing. It forced believers to confront the cost of divine love. As years passed, artists across Europe began to change how they depicted the Nativity. The child was no longer always shown swaddled in comfort, but sometimes naked, radiant, lying close to the earth. Mary was painted kneeling in adoration rather than reclining in ease. Few realized these changes traced back to one woman's midnight vision. Saint Bridget died in 1373, just 1 year after this revelation. But the image she carried, of a God trembling in the cold, outlived her. It whispered across centuries, challenging every generation to ask the same question. What kind of God would choose this? If Christ entered the world in such vulnerability, what does that demand of us today? Reflect on this and share your answer in the comments. Like and follow for more forgotten visions that changed history. The terrifying beauty of Bridget's Christmas vision lies not in horror, but in truth. It reveals a God who does not conquer by force, but by surrender. A God who chooses the darkness not to glorify it, but to redeem it from within. And a reminder that faith, when stripped of comfort, becomes something far more powerful, something capable of transforming the coldest night into the beginning of eternal light.